Kalamataro here with Monarch Training. In this video, we're going to talk about toes to bar.
So before getting into toes to bar, we're going to review kipping. You can see our full kipping video on our channel. The kip is a gymnastics skill that we're going to use, and everything is going to stem from our kip. And at its fundamental level, it's really simple. It's just a transferring between a hollow body position and an arch position. For those positions, we got two things on our body that pivot and rotate. We got our rib cage and we got our hips. In the hollow body position, we're going to pivot those towards each other in the front and try and make ourselves as long as possible. Biggest common mistake when it comes to kipping is getting into the proper hollow body position. When we go into this position, we want to make sure that everything is locked out. Big common mistake, people break. Biggest common one when it comes to that is breaking at the hip. People think like, oh, I want to get into a hollow body, and they try to get into like the biggest sort of what they think would be like a curve, but they end up looking like an angle instead of a curve. In the arch position, we're going to pin our ribs and hips, pelvis, whatever you want to think, together in the back and create that arch. So in the hollow and the arch, we're lengthening ourselves as much as possible, and we're staying very, very tight in these positions. We're going to go into the arch position, get a stretch, getting that stretch reflex, and then we're going to snap back. So we're going to contract really fast, and that's going to help generate that momentum, that stretch, that snap, stretch, snap, as we go. Once we get onto the bar, that same tension we felt in the hollow body and the arch as we were on the ground, we should be just as tight, feeling that much tension as we're on the bar. Work on doing some tight kip swings on the bar. It's not about having a big kip. It's about having a very tight kip to generate that power. If we're loose, you can think of it as a wave. We're trying to have a very high frequency, very tight cycling. If we had like a wave with very big amplitude, it's a lot slower, right? We want to generate force with that speed. So we're getting that momentum out of that kip, out of that tight kip swing, and we're going to add on to it by adding in a straight arm pull, right? So it's more forward and back, and to generate lift, we're going to get that straight arm pull, and that'll bring us up as high as we can. If you get really, really good at getting that straight arm pull, you're going to end up doing an uprise. If everything's connected, you're generating that force back, continuing through with that straight arm pull. So once we have the kip swing down, all of our skills will stem from that. So one of the most important aspects of toes to bar is keeping a straight arm pull. Our lift is being created with a straight arm pull. So once we get that, we're keeping our head and chest facing forward that whole time, straight arm pull, so we create lift, and then as we come through, keep the head and chest facing forward, come through that arch position, and come back. But it's really, really important we get that straight arm pull. From there, once we get it, we'll bring our toes to the bar. Two different methods of getting our toes to touch the bar. Once we get that straight arm pull back, then from there we can keep our legs straight if we have the hamstring flexibility, or you might find it easier, tuck your knees up and do like a knees to elbows, and then add a flick with the toes at the end. It's important to bring our legs back down quickly in the return as we get to that arch position. When it comes to scaling for toes to bar, one of the most important things is doing it in a way that you can string together. So what I usually tell people is just get your feet up as high as you can while still being able to maintain that kip. Now, in the open, do it by any means possible. Like in competition, whatever you got to do to get it to the bar. But in regular training, Dave Castro's not watching you, so it doesn't matter in terms of your standards. But what's going to get you better in the long run is doing something where you can maintain that kip. You can use that straight arm pull to send yourself back And then eventually, once you get stronger, a little more efficient with the kip, you'll be able to get your feet to the bar the right way and string it together. So scaling options, we have knees to elbows. This would be using that kip, getting it up as high as you can. Then another popular one, we can also just do knee raises, working on that core strength, tucking your knees up to your chest. What's important here is you're getting your spine to round, kind of really go into that hollowed out position. All right, last up, this is an important one. The most common mistake when it comes to toes bar is looking at the bar and kind of leaning back and getting too worried about having your toes touch the bar. So, like we said in scaling, get your feet up as high as you can while maintaining a kip. If we're doing this incorrectly, if we're just leaning back and kind of rotating back and having our feet touch the bar, that's not a real toes to bar. It's not a good rep. That's the most common mistake. If you are doing toes to bar, but you're having trouble stringing them together, that's because you're doing this common mistake of just leaning back instead of using that straight arm pull to send you back and keeping your head and chest facing forward. So progression to get better at it is do the scaled option. Don't worry about getting your feet to touch the bar. Just try to get your feet up as high as you can while maintaining a good kip. So that's it for us here at Monarch Training. Don't forget to subscribe, and if none of those tips we gave you help, try wearing giant clown shoes.